Well, my name is Marissa, if you haven't met me before, and I have an allotment, and I'm trying to run it organically and move over to permaculture. And so I started doing these workshops about a year ago, and we've gone through the seasons really each time and picking various topics as we go. And yeah, so this one is the June one, and we could each time we start with a little précis of a book called The Bible and Ecology by R Bauckham, which we could put up on the screen. This is a really interesting book to read, and I've been summarizing it. Most of the summaries should be on the place where they're saved by Green Christian, which Barbara can tell you about how to find them. And so Richard Bauckham has been showing in the book all of the passages of the Bible and showing how God really wants us to care for his creation. He doesn't want us to just be like sort of a throwaway society, and that he cares for all of creation. So this week we're going through chapter 4, which is where the wild things are. And there's a quotation he analyzes from Genesis chapter 2. So out of the ground, the Lord God formed every animal of the field and every bird of the air and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called every living creature, that was its name. And that's Genesis chapter 2, verse 18 to 24. Now, during this chapter, Bauckham discusses the otherness of creation. And this is where Adam, in this chapter, is given the task of naming all the animals. Now, after this, God feels Adam needs a companion of his own and creates woman. Bauckham wants us to realize that God has made the other creatures separate from ourselves, but to be valued as they have been named. And modern society creates an alienation, as people often have no contact with nature, and having a garden or allotment can help bring us back to this otherness of creation and value all that he has made. We'll go on to the allotment next. There's my daughter Sylvia being with nature. And the next slide. Yes, so you can see that she is digging into the soil there. Now we've got this very bad clay soil that was very, very difficult, very hard dry clay. And over 8 years, we've added horse manure, garden compost, volcanic ash, and lots of straw. And now it's a wonderful soil. And next month, I'll have a look at how to improve sandy soils, because I think they probably might need a slightly different treatment. The straw might make them even more dry, but I'll find out. So there's Sylvia making a space to put in some more global artichokes. So the next slide. Right, these are jobs for June. Well, we're now towards the end of June, but the weather's been a bit manky here, so maybe it's still June. So that's the Royal Horticultural Society website, and they give very good advice of what to do each month and to be careful how you use water and how to pinch out the side shoots of tomatoes. Otherwise you get too many tomatoes and they don't ever grow into very much of anything. And I'm hoping that the straw mulch on our allotment will also help evaporation. Though I've been away in France where it hasn't really rained at all, but I've heard from my friends who've been zookeeping my parrots that apparently it's been quite wet here, so I didn't need to worry about that. Now there's another website, the Allotment Gardening Org, which gives month by month advice on how to grow things, and if you click on that you'll get June. And we've done lots of planting out before I left and put in loads of some potatoes and kept adding straw, which you should be able to see in the next slide. Yes, there's Ellie. As well as sorting out my IT problems, he's also very good at on the allotments, and he's adding some straw onto the potato shoots. And when I have a moment, I've had too much admin since I came back, but when I have a moment, I'll dig up the potatoes and see if they're ready yet. Okay, so next slide. Right, that was us planting out the vegetables before we left. Lots and lots of runner beans and lots of other vegetables. And I try to use the format of a permaculture idea of a mandala, a system of keyholes instead of rows, because it's more artistic and interesting. And in the front, there's runner beans, and there's onions, leeks, carrots, and some of last year's potatoes and chard has also come up too. So I'm just letting it all carry on. Okay, so we've made these 3 sets of frames. So each year we can rotate a different crop rather than pick up the frames and try and move the frames. So those are tomatoes growing, and that patch had a load of horse manure in it. So hopefully they'll do quite well. I have had a quick peep, and they're coming up. They're about twice as high as when I left, and tiny little tomatoes are starting. And I've got peppers in the greenhouse. Okay, so next slide is there's my daughter's.
Oh dear. Marissa seems to have frozen. Right. Well, let's carry on planting out tomatoes and tying up the stalks with string in that slide. Could someone else just talk and make sure that that others can hear me? Michael, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
It is Marissa, not me. Marissa, not me. Okay, so here they're planting out the tomatoes and tying up the stalks with string. And you can see.
Would you like a comment about tomatoes?
What was that, Nicola?
Would you like a comment about pinching out tomatoes?
Yeah, go on.
I've read recently that if you've got what are called bush tomatoes, and nowadays it might say on the packet, they don't actually need pinching out because they're more compact. Whereas if you've got the tomatoes that you want to grow vertically, those are the ones where you do need to pinch out the side shoots.
Absolutely correct, Nicola. Yeah.
Can I also add?
Yep.
That this horrible tomato blight, which is a similar thing to the potato blight, they're the same family after all. But if you allow the leaves to touch the ground, because the virus often lives in the soil, then it's a good idea to, as soon as possible, remove the lower leaves to prevent that connection between the soil and the leaves. So that's what I do rigorously now, and it worked last year. So
thank you, Sue, and thank you, Nicola.
Could someone explain to me what a side shoot is on a tomato plant?
Oh, well, yes. If I can show you, if you can see my hand, Can you see it?
Yes.
No, I can't.
If you switch to active speaker only and you'll see her.
Speaker view.
Talk again, Marissa.
Well, if you imagine, if you hold your hand up and make like your thumb and your first finger, and the groove in between them is like the groove of the main shoot and a side shoot, and into that little groove grows little tiny shoots coming up in between your thumb and your first finger, and those are the ones to pinch out.
So if that's, can you see me?
Yes.
If that's the main stem,
Yes.
I pinch that one out.
No.
No.
The one in between.
In between.
Here. That one that's not there at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah,
Let's see.
Your thumb is actually a leaf stalk. Your thumb is a leaf stalk there.
Right. Yeah.
And the plant stem is here. And
Right.
the little twig goes between the two, and that you pinch those out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't want the strength of the plant going into the side shoots. You want it to go into the flowering trusses.
Right.
Thank you very much, Nicola and James. Well, we've stayed on this one slide, Marissa. So here we are. Over to you. Do you want to go on? We've talked.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Let's hope you stick with us this time.
Yes. Yes.
There
I'll
we
go
are.
over to the phone otherwise. Right, now last time we discussed the importance of adding minerals to the soil last month, and you'll be able to see that discussion. It was recorded, and how using volcanic ash can really do that, because we don't have enough minerals in our soil anymore because they've been depleted by about 50% by all the things we've done to it. So last month we'd have added the volcanic ash, and then this immediately improves the other mulches. Now, mulches are things that you grow that you can turn into a lot of things. I will explain as we go along. Now, we're going to do this time clover as a living mulch. Now, white clover especially, it should be coming up by now, and I have planted it. And the advice is to sow it after rain and cover with a light layer of soil. Then the clover will grow up and can be used for all of these purposes. It will catch the sun, so stopping the earth below from drying out. It will crowd out other weeds, especially on bare soil. If you mow it, like with a strimmer, you can take it and use the mulch as spread around on the plants or around the plants, or to put it in and make a tomato feed out of it. There's two methods of making the tomato feed, and Sue's method will be gone into later on, or you can use a water butt. We've now got solar power, so it's powering all our pumps and appliances we use on the allotment. So now after quite an endeavour, my bill last month was £53 for gas and electricity. And I've got a lot of people living here, and it's quite a big place with lots of things going on. So solar does help if you can do it. I wish the government would give more grants for it. It makes sense. Now, if your allotment allows chickens, they can eat this clover and keep it under control. But my allotments, we're not allowed to have them. And there's a book called The One Straw Revolution by this chap, R Bauckham, and he wrote extensively about using white clover as a living mulch. So we'll go on to the next slide. That's another thing you can use as a mulch. That's my wild comfrey. and that's very useful too. And it's growing between the tomatoes and the potatoes. And it was there when I got the allotment, so I just let it carry on, and it's really great for the bees. It flowers for a very long time. It's only just stopped flowering, so it's really great for them. So the next slide is, yes, there's the wild comfrey close up, and get a microscope, you could see some bees. Nettles and comfrey are these are other mulches. And we've got 2 patches of comfrey on our plot. The wild one I've just shown you, and the other, they grow up really huge from the organic gardening catalogue, and you can use them as mulches, or you'll see Sue's method later on for making plant food using old tubs. Nettles are also a great source of nutrients and mulch, and you can trim them the same as comfrey. You can make tea out of them, use them as a mulch. Now, a mulch around the plants helps decrease evaporation and stop weeds. And you can also turn it into plant food if you put it in with some rainwater. And you can also eat it as spinach after you cook it. Don't try and eat it raw. And I find my strimmer very helpful here. Now, next month, I'm going to go into the beneficial uses of seaweed. That was quite a lot when I started researching it. So I think I'll do that next month, but that's another great thing to add to the allotment or garden. Yeah, and that's the website with books on nettles. And this is Ellie. He is planting out various French beans, and I tried to use builder's sand. I had a load of builder's sand left over from these various projects on the house, so I was trying to use them that to keep the molluscs at bay. It was not very organic, but anyway, I had loads of it, so I tried it. The next slide is close up of Ellie planting. And we've still got a lot of straw left on the allotment that we haven't managed to dig in yet. And that's how I've tried to do it this time. Okay. So the next slide. These are contributions from members of the allotment workshop group. And Katia sent in, and I think it's also been on Green Christian website, that she wanted to share this with you. The family who lived with us asked me if I needed help in the garden. This is a Ukrainian family she's hosting. And then created this wonderful alpine rock garden. They dug out all the boulders from the garden and put them together and chose the flowers, and their daughter gave them moral support. And there's another photograph of the family. Okay. Now, Sue has a wonderful way of using comfrey as a tomato seed rather than putting it in a spare water butt. She writes, I use large old plastic tubs with close-fitting lids that came filled with chicken poo pellets rather than a big compost bin. I use the leaves and stems of comfrey, which grow profusely on my plot. I love the bees, beautiful flowers full of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Perennial, easily comes invasive, so saving lots of leaves and stems. Make free seed for tomatoes and other crops. And she uses large bags of plastic net that once stored onions or spring bulbs, and fill it with comfrey, tying the net with garden twine, so creating a large tea bag immersed in the tub of water. Leave for up to 6 weeks before use. The close-fitting lid keeps the stink in. The net bag makes disposal of the compost eventually much easier than hand scooping out semi-rotten, smelly leaves. The bag can be reused over and over again and prevents yet more plastic going into landfill. So that's a very good idea. I mean, I have got a lot of water butts that I've collected on FreeCycle. So a water butt is easier for me, but I think I'm going to put some mesh at the bottom of it so that it's got all my comfrey to cut now, and that will stop the bottom of the water butt getting clogged up. And these are reviews and information from Sue. That's the book that she's reading. If you can see the details of it. And the journalist started an allotment in Winchester and then became involved in creating the Bible Society of Psalm 23 Garden to the Chelsea Flower Show. And it was in lovely garden. And she used her experiences of creating her allotment from a derelict site and how it's affected her mental health, faith, relationship with the land, friendship, and more. Easy and fun to read through. So that's a recommended book. And I went away before I could hear this programme on BBC4, but it will be recorded on BBC Sound by a soil scientist, Keith Smith, and he links current knowledge and understanding on carbon capture, climate change, political mistakes, and opportunities with closer attention to the importance of our soil. So those are some contributions. Those are the grey architects. We're going to have a few tonight for dinner, but mostly I tend to leave them for the bees. Because they produce such beautiful flowers. I just like looking at them. So then the next slide. These are various links. That's the book, The One Straw Revolution, about the white rover using it. Is it the one about the living milk? I think so, yes. And now comfrey, now some vegans do eat it, but I was looking at it and it would appear that apparently it might not be such a good idea to eat because it might give you liver damage, but I know vegans might eat small quantities of it because it contains vitamin B12, but I'm not exactly sure whether one should be eating it or just using it as a mulch. Okay, so the next slide. We've been using this prayer for Ukraine each month, and it would appear that they still need our prayers. And this is an anthem that they sing. And if we manage to get it going, well, the chap is singing it. And it's Molitava za Ukrainiu in Russian, well, Ukrainian. They're very similar, the languages. So let's see if we can get it going. Barbara, let's see if we can get the YouTube to sing. And otherwise, if it doesn't work, I will say the prayer.
sorry. Right, another.
Well, I can say it if we can't hear it.
Yes,
Okay.
I think you're going to have to.
Okay, I can do that. Lord, O Ukraine, bless her with freedom and light of your holy rays. With learning and knowledge enlighten us, your children small, in love pure and everlasting. Let us, O Lord, grow. We pray, O Lord Almighty, protect our beloved Ukraine. Grant our people and country all your kindness and grace. Bless us with freedom, bless us with wisdom. Guide into kind world. Bless us, O Lord, with good fortune, forever and evermore.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Marissa. At the end of this session, I will play that for us. Right. Anybody got any thoughts in general? Just to come back to Marissa on. If not, I'll pop us all into breakout groups. A couple of them. All right.
I have a question for Marissa.
Mm-hmm.
It might seem obvious to you, but not to me. Does one grow, I mean, I haven't got an allotment, so it's my garden. Does one grow, say, the comfrey or nettles or whatever elsewhere in one's garden, or fallow for the whole garden, or with the other crops one is growing?
Well, I think it depends on the layout of your garden. Do you have like vegetable beds or?
Yeah, I'm a bit hickledy-pickledy, but yes, we have various pots, planters, and vegetables in the garden itself as well.
Right. How big is your garden?
Quite a small one, really. We live in a 3-bedroom semi-detached house. I can't give you the exact details, but it's quite small. The back and front, it's quite small.
I think to start with, try growing them in patches and see how you go. I think that might be best. I've got a really big allotment, so I can let them sort of take over, but I think if you were on a smaller space, just start small. And if you've got a strimmer or something and they start getting too big, just trim them and take the cuttings and put them to either put around the sides of other vegetables to keep the moisture in around the vegetables, or to make them into plant food by putting them into either a water butt or a sealed container with some rainwater. In about 6 weeks, you'll have some very pongy plant food. Be very good for your tomatoes.
When you put them just round the plant, you do that fresh, do you? Or do you let them rot down a bit first?
They can just go fresh around the plant.
Right, yeah. I don't have a strimmer, but I do have shears. So they can cut them like that.
That will do.
And then do they grow back again?
Yes.
So you've got an ongoing source of good things.
Yes, that's the thing. And if you use some volcanic ash at the beginning, then they will have, when they grow up, they will have lots of good minerals in them.
Yeah.
The volcanic ash, I think the references for it is in last month's talk. But,
yeah, you mentioned that last time.
Yes, it's called.
I think you gave us a link or whatever.
Yes, it's called rock dust, and I get it at my Allotment Society shop. But I expect you can probably get it at garden centres.
Yeah.
Okay,
Presumably it's quite expensive.
I think a little will go a long way in your garden.
Right.
If you've got a fairly small garden, maybe one bag of it would do the trick each year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, James. Thanks, Marissa.